What is up, my dudes? This is Seth with the Fantasy Football Dudes podcast. We're back at you guys. Wow, we're in week 15 already of our Underdog Pick'em props and top plays of the week. Man, this season's flying by really quick, and we're in fantasy football playoffs. This is a big deal. I just finished watching the Rams 49ers game, and just what an absolute offensive battle that game was. Just kidding. It was a terrible game. Not fun to watch in terms of prop plays because it's not how the game was going to go. But anyways, what's up, Jordan?
Needed a Kyron touchdown there, and yeah, it was kind of a mess.
No
So
touchdowns whatsoever.
no touchdowns whatsoever. So any touchdowns, if you had a first touchdown bet on no touchdown being scored, I'm sure that paid out really well.
Yeah,
So
no, seriously.
um, I actually don't. I think you can do that on the first touchdown. I think you can bet no touchdown. So
Honestly, I'm like thinking about it. I'm like, honestly, I think football might be easier to play in the snow than it is in pouring rain.
I think that's true.
Like that's like seriously the case. There's just so many times where I'm just like, oh my goodness, like it's so hard to watch that first half. It was so brutal. But anyways, so
But we had a good week last week, Seth.
yeah, it was great.
I think we went 5 for 6 on the plays. I swept mine. You barely missed out on one, I think.
Yeah, I
Or
think
what was it?
when I originally got my Mike Evans prop, it was 69 and a half, and he got 69 yards, but I think it moved up till about 70 or 71, I believe.
Yeah, so it
So,
was barely a miss.
but yeah, really
But
5 for
yeah,
6 is awesome. So,
we hit the show play, so that was good. So
mhm.
let's get 2 weeks in a row here. Let's get a good 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah, let's get into your first play, Jordan.
Yeah, so I got Bijan Robinson over 80.5. I actually just hit the refresh button on this one, and now he is at 81.5. So it's moved up a yard. I think it's fine there. He's playing the Las Vegas Raiders. Let's see here. The Bijan's hit this number in 4 out of his last 5 weeks. And I just think I think the Falcons are up in this game. I know it's on the road, but I think they're up in this game, and I think they just pound the rock with Bijan. He's been their most consistent weapon. Kirk Cousins has not been very good this year, and Bijan's just been a machine. So like the Bijan over 80.5, 81.5 now. I think I'd play that up into maybe the 82.5, 83.5. Also, you could also like alt it down to like 79.5. I think that's like if you don't like the 81.5, you could alt it down to like 79.5 and you lose like 0.05 on the multiplier or something. It's not a huge deal. So if you don't like the line movement there, I think you can just alt it down just a bit. But really like the Bijan play here.
Yeah, that's one of my I really like that play just because the Raiders defense is not very good at stopping runs. And you're right. It's just the way how the Falcons offense has been trending is just Kirk Cousins is going to remain the starting quarterback, but their strength is not in their passing game right now. Clearly, it's in their running game. So I really like that line. Be interesting to look at too on Algiers line. I would imagine it's probably in the 40s and 50s. That would be something to look into too. I'd probably like that one as well. I'll get into my
It
first
is.
play.
We have no Seth, real quick. No, there's no lineup yet.
No line. Okay,
Yeah.
interesting. All right, I'll get into my first play this week. I have Jerry Judy at 69 and a half versus KC. Kansas City, notoriously really good run defense, but their pass defense is a little exploitable. And I believe Jerry Judy has gone over this number um, as far as I can remember back, really, ever since Jameis Winston's been quarterback. Jerry Judy's been awesome, and he's been going over this number. I think it's too low if Cleveland wants to be competitive and try to win this game. They're going to need to get Jerry Judy the ball, and 69 and a half yards is really not enough. Like his total, I think he's going to finish close to 90 yards. Like I really think that's how high he's going to get this game, just because Jameis is going to throw the ball recklessly. Like he's not afraid to throw picks, obviously, and he's also not afraid to throw touchdowns. And I think that fits perfectly in the type of player Jerry Judy is. So I really like that line this week. It's probably might be my favorite play this week.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen receivers have success against this defense the last few weeks. I know Quentin Johnson had a decent game last week, but the week before, like Jacoby Myers was really, really good. So, um, yeah, don't mind that one at all, Seth. I think, and the thing is with the Browns, like you said, they're gonna move the ball. They're gonna throw the ball. It's what they do with Jameis Winston. So, don't know like how much downside is. And this Chiefs defense seems like it's getting, I wouldn't say weaker, but less effective, maybe like just by a bit, as the year goes on. So
I mean, Chiefs only have one loss, so they're clearly winning games somehow. So,
yeah.
but I think the defense is probably one of their bright spots on the team. That's why they're only have one loss. Let's get into your second play here, Jordan.
Yeah, I got Ramondre Stevenson over 49.5 rushing yards. Two running back for plays for me this week. I would say that's probably not normal for me, but I think this is too low for Ramondre. Cardinals are a solid matchup. Like, I'm not going to say it's like the best matchup in the world, but they're about probably like a top 10 matchup for running back. So Ramondre's went over this in his last three or four. Seems like he's pretty much solidified. I mean, Antonio Gibson really isn't there. Ramondre is getting the bulk of the carries. The biggest thing is, like, can they keep this close? You know, uh, can they keep it close? And the spread kind of indicates, that they are going to keep this close. It's Arizona 4.5. Like, that's not huge. So again, like, don't love that he is a road dog, but on the same side, like 49.5 is not much at all. So I think they could just, if he could volume his way there to this line, I think it's about maybe 10 yards too low. So like this one quite a bit.
Yeah, I will. I want to agree with you there, just because of we saw what Charbonnet did last week. Had over 126 yards. Obviously, the Seahawks are a better team than the Patriots, but I really don't think the Cardinals are anything special. And there's a scenario where the Patriots win this game, and if they do, it's going to be because Ramondre has more than 50 yards rushing. So I really like that line at 49.5. I think that's way too low for what it's worth. So. I'll get into my second play this week. I feel like I only pick receivers. I don't know why. Maybe because they're just really fun to watch. I don't know. But I feel like I'm always picking receivers here. Going back to a guy I've played a couple times this year is Terry McLaurin at 66.5. The Saints are at not the very bottom, but they're in the lower third of teams. It's a favorable matchup for wide receivers. Terry McLaurin at 66.5 has gone over very many times this year and is always gonna, and usually wide receivers, the number one wide receiver against the Saints gets more than this number. I just think it's too low for Terry. I'm not sure if Vegas just thinks that the Commanders are going to run the ball a decent amount to where Terry doesn't get his normal amount of yardage per game, but I think this line's too low. At least in the last three games, Terry has gone over here against harder defenses. So I really like this line at 66.5.
Yeah, I like that one, Seth. I think it's a good spot for Terry. I think the Commanders kind of do whatever they want against the Saints defense.
Yeah.
Rookie quarterback, or not rookie, second year quarterback, and Jake Haener. That's our boy. Got the Fresno
My
State.
sleeper this
Go
week.
Dogs. But yeah, no, but it could be a struggle just for them in general. So I
Yeah.
like that one. I'll get into my last play. I have a receiver here. I got Khalil Shakir over 55.5 receiving yards. I just looked. It's now down to 45 and not 45, 54.5 receiving yards. Just a pretty good matchup against this Lions secondary. They have not been the best against wide receivers. They're definitely more of a pass funnel. They're really, really good against the run, and they give up the second most yards to wide receivers. They give up the second most receptions to wide receivers. They give the ninth most fantasy points to wide receivers. They do limit touchdowns to wide receivers. So, but I think 55.5 is just too low for Shakir in this spot. He's just been a target monster. He's kind of their go-to wide receiver. I know that Amari Cooper kind of came on last week. He by far had his most targets in a game for the Bills this year. But Shakir also, I mean, Amari Cooper had 14 targets last week. But Shakir's kind of been the steady guy. I mean, he's had since week 7, he's had 7, 10, 7, 9, 12, 7, 8 targets. So
Yeah.
he's kind of been the go-to guy here. And I think it's a really good matchup for Shakir out of the slot.
If this game goes exactly how we want it to go, it's going to be really high scoring and it's going to be a lot of passing. And I think that'll play perfectly into Shakir, especially if we think the Bills want to win this game. It's in Detroit. I think they're going to have to throw a lot because I think Detroit's going to put up points, and that's just good for Shakir. He's steadying that targets. We saw, Cooper did get 14 targets last week, but if I think, if this game script goes exactly how we think it's going to go, Cooper could still have 14 targets and Shakir can still get 56 yards or more. So really like that play, Jordan. I'll get into my last one. My last play, we have Cortland Sutton at 69.5 receiving yards. Sutton has gone over this mark plenty of times with Bo Nix at the quarterback. Um, Really, there's not any too much about this one about the matchup I like as much, but really the consistency of Cortland over this year, and especially his most recent games. His last 3 games, he has gone over this number. So I'm just gonna keep playing consistency here. And I also looked at some of his lines in the past weeks too. His line was always under what he went over. So I really, really like that. 69.5, I think, is too little. I would probably shy away from it if it got into the low 70s, probably at 72, 73. I wouldn't play this, but I really like it in this 69 mark.
Yeah, no, I agree, Seth. I think his line had generally just been too low all year. So it's definitely higher than it was a few weeks ago, but I think it's still a really good spot for him.
For sure. Jordan, do you want to, or any other plays you like this week before we give out our pod play?
Yeah, there's a couple. I think like Garrett Wilson over 16.5 receiving yards against the Jaguars. I think that's pretty good. Seems a little low to me. Mike Evans over 65.5 receiving yards against the Chargers. Don't mind that one. Tyreek over 69.5 receiving yards against the Houston. I feel like the Texans secondary is pretty beatable. I really like this one. I almost made it a play, but I didn't. The Jalen Warren over 18.5 receiving yards against the Philadelphia Eagles. I think they really focused on stopping the Steelers' run game. I think they could use Warren more in the passing game. We saw he get an uptick in targets without George Pickens last week. Sorry. So I do like Jalen Warren, the over 18.5 receiving yards. On Underdog, they don't have Isaiah Davis props up yet. I kind of want to wait for those. A few other websites have him about 34.5, 35.5. So I do think that I like the Isaiah Davis rushing yards. He seemed like he got more snaps than Braylon Allen. He seemed just more involved. I could look up the snap count real quick, but that one honestly might have been a show play for me too if we had that lineup, but we didn't. Yeah, Isaiah Davis and Braylon Allen were pretty much in a 50-50 split. So I think Isaiah Davis they like in the run game almost more than Braylon Allen. So I like that one. I'm just waiting for that prop to get released on Underdog. Anything else here?
The Kirk Cousins under 1.5 passing touchdowns. That one
It's
might
just
just be
gonna
for
hit it to
fun.
tilt you. This year we could hit
Yeah,
it to tilt you though.
yeah,
So
that would just be classic, I feel like. I'll give our official pod play, guys. We're doing a 4-man this week, so that's fun. So we're taking 2 of my plays and 2 of Jordan's. My 2 plays are Cortland Sutton higher than 69.5 receiving yards, and Jerry Jeudy also at the same line over those receiving yards. And Jordan's 2 plays, we have Khalil Shakur at 55.5 receiving yards, and Bijan, it's updated from the 80.5 to the 81.5. Guys, I really like this play this week. I think it's kind of fun to do our first 4-man official pod play. I think this is actually a 10x, so it's pretty fun to do that for the first week of fantasy playoffs. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you guys check us out on YouTube at TFF Dudes, also check out Trent on Twitter at TFF Dudes, or Twitter should be it's X now. But Trent is always hot on there. Just like Trent likes to make people mad on there, just because any kind of clout is just clout and it brings, stuff to your channel. Trent likes making people mad. And it's really funny, to hear all these different and see all these different comments that people have about, Trent's jokes that not everyone gets. So, anyways, guys, check us out there. Please like and subscribe. share this with your friends if you guys want to join us along on these prop plays. Thanks for joining us. Take care. See you week 16.
This has been another episode of the Fantasy Football Dudes podcast. Remember to rate, review, and follow. For more information, go to www.thefantasyfootballdudes.com. And remember, we are sorry for absolutely nothing.